Welcome back to the channel, and today we are starting our first rebuild series on the channel in college football 26. And with the team we're choosing is going to be Texas State, the Bobcats, who are moving to the Pac-12 in just a year's time. Need a little bit of help and a ton of work before that move is made. This two-star program is only rated 69 overall, so it is a long road ahead of us as we are on our way to hopefully winning conference titles, national championships, and possibly even a bigger move down the road into a bigger conference like the Big 12 or SEC if we can get our feet under us and continue to grow this program. So today, if you like this video, drop a subscription down below and hit that like button. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get a start on this rebuild. But as we start this rebuild, we'll be taking over for GJ Kinney, who's a level 33 strategist. So we're going to have a long road ahead of us as we continue into this. But our backstory is going to be the first thing we need to select. And last season, we all knew recruiter was overpowered. The extra recruiting hours you get for different positions or how it's easier to scout them, but they have completely changed this tier. So we're not going to be going that. We went with tactician a lot last year, and we're going to be sticking with that this season. Motivator is also a great choice for developing players, but getting that extra boost early on to your top talent and honestly to anybody on the field at any point in the game is going to be vital for us to continue to grow this program and possibly steal a win or two that we shouldn't be able to get this early on. And as we enter the helm, Coach Cecily will be taking over the team. We'll get to the offensive and defensive playbooks down the line. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it right this second. The alma mater is going to be Kentucky. The pipeline will be East Tennessee. And we're in a nice fit with the Texas Heat. We got to go with the short sleeves and the polo. There's a lot of long sleeve options, not a ton of short sleeve options in this new build. EA did add a ton of different selections for apparel, so be sure to check those out when you're creating your coach. It's not just the same two we had last season. And as we get into the contract screen, you can see that the Bobcats actually haven't had that bad of a record the last two seasons, but the years prior, they were really not able to get above 4 wins for about the better part of a decade. And we will be hopefully getting back and at least trying to keep those 8-5 numbers. And the goal for our contract, our 4-year contract, is going to be win a conference championship. And with the move to the Pac-12 next year, it might be more difficult than we once envisioned, but we have the tall task in front of us. 7 wins is the expectation for the next 4 years as well. I think it's doable, but we're going to have to see who's on our roster, what our transfers are going to look like, and kind of what team we're going to have. It's always going to be changing with the new transfer settings and stuff like that. And with that mentioned, let's go ahead and check out some of our settings that we're going to get to and play through this dynasty. And as always, we're going to be playing a Heisman skill level, the Coach XP settings, and we set this slower. Normal, I feel like, is a little too fast, so we're going to set this to slower, but slowest is way too slow, so we're going to be right in the middle, kind of in a Goldilocks area. The manual progression is going to be on 25%. As of right now, we're not going to manually progress anybody. If we do, we may change the actual XP progression settings rather than just have a penalty for manually upgrading. Just manually upgrading players shouldn't be a detriment, but we also shouldn't get a ton of benefits, so we'll have to see. We're not going to play with any pre-order bonuses. The play call cooldown and play call limit is going to be both set to 3, so this means that we're not going to be able to call the same plays back to back to back, and we're going to be limited to 3 play calls or 3 calls of the same play 3 times per game. So it's going to be very vital that we keep switching plays and make sure that we're always on top of our playbook. 10-minute quarters with accelerated clock on. Minimum play time set to 12 seconds. It's the same settings we had last year, and we're going to keep it the same. For right now, wear and tear is on. We're going to keep it on throughout this whole series, and everything is set to 50 right now. And then moving on to transfers, we have this set at 22. Looking back to last season, that is about how many per team that you saw. When you adjust the roster size to 85, obviously with the 100 and how many ever players that they have in real life, that's going to fluctuate or be more than it is. So we're going to set this to 22. We might change this down back to 20 or 15, but for right now, it's going to be on 22, just so we have more volatile transfer portals and it's more similar to real life. The transfer chances are both going to be on 55. And like I said, we're not going to manually progress players right now. We may pick and choose a couple guys to manually progress, but for right now, we're going to leave that as is. And as for the gameplay sliders, we're going to leave everything on 50. Heisman did a good job last year, kind of doing what we want, making it more realistic. But as we go through the playthrough, we'll adjust things, but we'll update you all when we do that. But for right now, everything's set to the base 50 for our gameplay settings. And as we get into our schedule, we get our first look as our competition. Our non-con games are going to be Eastern Michigan, UTSA, which is a rivalry game with the I-35 showdown, Arizona State, and FCS Southeast. Sam Houston State is also a rivalry for the Bobcats. We're not going to play them this year, and we may not play them for a couple years since Texas State has like the next 5 or 6 years planned of non-conference games, and that's what we're going to be using for this dynasty. We want to try to be as realistic as possible for this playthrough. Arkansas State, Troy, Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, Louisiana, Southern Miss, ULM, and South Alabama will be all of our conference opponents. Looking through this, you can see we kind of got an easy slate to end the season with 3 teams around that 500 or below rating, but Louisiana is going to be a tough task coming off 10-4, and they were in the conference championship game last season. Georgia Southern also 8-5. Coastal Carolina in the blue turf, we will be playing at home against them, so we're going to have a benefit. We do have 4 straight home games after non-con play is ended, so hopefully that'll be able to give us a little bit of a boost, and then we will go on the road for the last 3. So it's going to be an interesting season this year. Hopefully we can get our feeding under us and possibly make a conference championship game before we say goodbye to the Sun Belt Conference as we move to the Pac-12 next year. And if this rebuild couldn't get any harder, looking at our coordinators, Landon Kiopel is a tactician just like us. He has a little bit of ability for running backs. He has all of his abilities for wide receivers and tight ends, and he has some for the O-line. So we're going to get a little bit of a boost all the way around. And also when we travel on the road, the crowd won't affect us as much. And probably one of the better abilities in this tree, especially in the scheme guru category, is going to be the ground and pound offense. Running is probably one of the more effective ways of offense in college football, and we're going to be using that a ton as he has all 4 abilities here. So as we run the ball throughout the game, the defense is going to be getting worn down quicker than you would see. And with this year, they have updated wear and tear for the AI, so we should see them just getting beat down throughout the game, and hopefully we're going to be able to wear them down as we push on throughout the rest of the games and the seasons. And looking at our defensive coordinator, he's a master motivator, which is going to be very beneficial for us for the first few seasons as we're trying to progress players when a lot of our top guys are going to keep leaving every offseason. And you can see here, linebackers and secondary is going to be his specialties. No benefit for the defensive line, but that'll be all right for now. But he has all 4 upgrades for them, and he also has 3 upgrades for both in the master motivator tier, which is going to give our defensive players better recovery from wear and tear, and they're also going to be less likely to transfer. So we might be able to keep a couple guys that we probably shouldn't be able to with this family atmosphere. So I think our coaches for this season are good, but we don't have any recruiting ability, so it's going to be very, very difficult for us to get a lot of top talent. But I think we're going to be able to do at least okay for the first couple seasons. We just got to manage until we get some wins and upgrade our coach, and then we'll be able to just kind of spur off and just kind of keep pushing. And with that, we're going to upgrade our coach. Our first upgrade is going to go into the running game. Since our offensive coordinator has that ground and pound ability, I want our running backs to be as good as possible. And just to keep running the ball, we're going to be running a ton. So we're going to probably have 1 to 2, maybe even 3 back cycle in and out throughout the year. So it should be very beneficial upgrading this for us. And as we pull into our roster before we get to recruiting, you can see we actually have some decent amount of players that actually are 80 plus overall, which are going to be very beneficial for us. And good thing most of them are seniors because they are not going to be up to that deal breaker point, and they're going to be likely to transfer. The biggest name here is going to be Greg Burrell, the freshman out of Las Vegas, Nevada, an East-West playmaker, which is a new archetype this season. We're going to try to get him to stay. His playing style deal breaker needs to be a B, and if we're going to be running the ball a ton this year, it's going to be very vital that we keep him in the game as much as possible. But looking at our depth chart, we're going to have a lot of options and kind of different players to pick from, especially at the quarterback position. You can see here we have 3 different guys, possibly even 4 guys we can really select, all around 2 to 3 overall difference between. But right now, Holden Gariner is going to be our starter. He has a star depth trait. He's a junior. The 6'3" righty is a pocket pass archetype. But the more intriguing player here is going to be Brad Jackson, a dual threat player. He's a freshman redshirt. He's a little bit shorter on that side of 6 foot, which could be an issue this year depending on how tall our linemen are with the new game feature where the shorter quarterbacks have difficulty seeing over the line and seeing anything across the middle. It might be harder to pass to them. So we're going to have to make a decision. It's probably going to be likely that Brad Jackson is going to transfer. Pro potential isn't very good, and I don't foresee us getting any quarterbacks drafted this year. So he's probably going to transfer after this season. So we may have to stick it out with Holden, but we'll have to wait and see. And then we also have Keldrick Luster, the dual threat sophomore quarterback at 5'10". But again, a similar situation, brain exposure. We're at a D, he needs a C+, and this doesn't upgrade very fast. So we may be stuck with Holden outside of those two options. But it's very interesting. This is probably one of the better teams in terms of the lower tier teams that have a ton of quarterback options for you to choose from. Lee Compare is going to be the starting running back. But again, we were talking about Burrell being a very, very vital playmaker for us. We may bump him up to play over top some of these seniors since they will be graduating next year. And if we don't want to have to backfill a big spot, we might have to go ahead and make that decision. He's an impact depth trade as well. We're going to try to do whatever we can to keep Greg Burrell on this roster. And then as we move to wide receiver, we actually do have two options here that are very, very good. Bo Sparks and Chris Don Jr. are a two-headed hydra at the wide receiver position. But Don Jr. looks like he may transfer at the end of this year. The junior wants pro potential. And again, we're probably not going to put any of these wide receivers into the pros. The rest of our wide receiver room is looking pretty decent as well. But LJ Johnson Jr., another guy who looks to be on the up and up, but again, is going to probably be a liability to transfer at the end of the season, especially since conference prestige may change a little bit when we move to the Pac-12, and I'm not sure it will affect him before he decides to transfer. And you can see that's going to be the constant issue here, is that guys transferring out every year that you think you might have on the roster next year. Moving on to tight end, we have Titus Lyons, a senior who's going to be leaving us at the end of this year, but we have a good backup in Ty Stammy. He likes our playing style, B+, he needs a B-, so we're going to have to keep feeding him the ball over the next season or so. Moving on to our linemen, holding down that left side is Dorian Strawn. The senior is going to be leaving us at the end of this year, and we don't really have many people to back him up. Telek Lockett is going to be at that left guard position. A similar situation. We have two guys graduating at the end of this year. We don't really have a good second option for next season. And then Ezra Dotson Oyatade is going to be another guy here. He is a junior, but again, a risk to transfer. And again, we're just going to keep seeing that every single time we have any top tier talent. And we may not see them transfer since we're locked in at that 22 spot. That's his max amount of players that are going to transfer. So we may get lucky and keep some of these guys. But if not, we're going to try to revitalize our roster every single season. Moving on to right tackle, this is our weakest spot on the line. So we're probably not going to be focusing on this side a lot. We're probably running the ball to the left a lot more so than the right. Hopefully that doesn't bother us too much. But moving on to the defense, we have Khalil Alexander, our captain on the defense, a former All-American. The right edge rusher is going to be playing on the left side here, 82 overall, 82 speed. And he hopefully is going to be very, very vital for us, blowing up big runs in the backfield. On the right side, we have Jalazon Landry out of Houston. The 6'3 speed rusher is hopefully going to be there as well. He's a sophomore, and again, he wants pro potential. Unless we send somebody to the NFL this season, we're probably going to lose him as well. And as we move out through the rest of our defense, it's actually very, very poor. A lot of low to under 70 overall players. And it's going to be a rough time to kind of keep these guys on the team if we don't have any success. And also with the new transfer rules, it's going to be very, very tough to keep them anyways. So as we get into the season, it's going to be vital that we get some big wins. And we're going to hit the recruiting board hard as we're going to replace a ton of these players coming into next year. So let's go ahead and take a look at our recruiting, get some house rules we're going to play with in this rebuild to see how realistic we can make it. And as we get into recruiting, I want to discuss the house rules that we're going to build into this dynasty to give us a more realistic playthrough. And we have two. The first one is going to be scouting. We're only going to be able to scout players to 40% or whatever that click will be passed. So for example, if we have a coordinator that allows us to scout a little bit better for a player and one click of the button's going to be 50%, that's okay. We're just not going to scout any further. So 40% is going to be our basic cap for the first few years until we get that recruiting boost online. And the second one is going to be that we're going to have thresholds for amount of stars we can get per recruiting class. So for us at the 2-star position, we are going to have 53 stars. So however we get that, if it's 10 5-stars and 1 3-star, that's 53. And that's as many people we're going to allow to get. Anybody else that we're going to get on the roster is going to be a walk-on that the CPU generates for us. For the 2-star teams, we're obviously not going to be going after 5 stars. Looking at this prospect list, we're not going to have a ton of options anyways. Most of our players are going to be 3 stars. maybe even some 2 stars, and hopefully not, but probably some 1 stars just to backfill some positions. We may be able to sneak a 4 star, a 5 star in there once in a blue moon, but honestly, with how this game works, unless they have proximity to home as their deal breaker, it's very likely that they're going to move on anyways in the very first season or second season that they're with us. So it doesn't even really benefit us at this point to add players like that to our roster. So those are going to be our 2 house rules that we're going to play by, and that should breed a more realistic playthrough. And also, when we are starting to change settings and stuff, that should help us down the road. So let me know your thoughts on that. And I'll keep updated throughout the series just so that we're all on the same page for the first year or so. And with the house rules we have in place, with all the star limits that we have, it's going to be vitally important that we pick and choose the players we're going to offer. And we have 2 4 stars that we're interested in. Brian Flores is the first one, a backfield creator, quarterback at 6'3", coming out of Lafayette, Louisiana. He's going to be a big guy we're going to try to target. If we can get him on the roster, it's going to be huge, but it's not going to be the biggest deal if we don't. The next one is going to be Rob Tobias, which is going to be a lurker type will linebacker out of Texas. So he's going to be in our 3-star pipeline. So it's going to be exponentially easier for us to try to snag him than maybe some other players that aren't as close to us. And this is going to be the big issue here, is that if we do get these 2 guys, it's going to be 8 of our 53 stars that we've used. We're going to have only 45 stars left to offer, which is going to hurt us in other areas. So it's a big give and take that we're going to have to do this season. Another issue is that we don't really have a ton of top or running back talent that wants to come to Texas State. The top one is going to be Rodney Isaac, the only 3-star that was interested in us, and we're not in this top 10. So it's going to be an issue as we try to get back and work through teams like Hawaii, Sam Houston State, Air Force, and Rice. But if we don't get him, we have a backup plan in Daryl Bryant. We're in the A spot. We have offered him a scholarship as well. Another East-West playmaker, and hopefully we're not going to have to recruit a ton of these guys. But as it stands right now, we are set to lose a ton of running backs next year in the cycle. But the wide receiver position was a lot easier to recruit. All 5 guys we have on our board are 3 stars, and they all look to be very good. And we're in their top 1 or 2 slot for university, so that is very good for us. It's not going to take a ton for us to, work back over other teams. But looking here, we have a couple good options. Eddie Robledo has an 88 acceleration, and his speed looks to be very good, going to be 75 plus. This year, they've done a lot to nerf speeds, and they don't have that deep threat archetype anymore, so you're going to have a lot of different abilities. Another is Danny Trupuka is going to be the gadget type, the new archetype, so he could work in as a gadget player for us. So it's going to be very interesting how we're going to work this. And with not being able to see all of the players' abilities, it's going to be kind of a hit or miss. We may get screwed out on some things down the line. We may pick players that aren't necessarily the best player to choose, but with our limited knowledge, they may look good to us. But Stephen McCaffrey, 86 speed, 80 route running, has the mental ability roller coaster. I'm not really sure what that is right now, but it's a new ability that they have. He looks to be the best receiver on our board, one of the better players, but he is 5'6". He is a route artist, so he may be able to work in at that slot position in between, the lines there, 5 to 8 yard, in and out routes. That would be very good. He could be excel there and kind of work his way through there. And as a 2-star program, the similar to last year, it's going to be really hard to rebuild our line. Leo Brown and Emmett Smythe are 2 guys that we have on the board right now for tackles. Our better position is going to be guard, where we have Alex Simonson and Adonis Vigil, both 3-star guys. But again, can we afford to pick them up, or we're going to have to settle for someone like Daryl Colston? So there's just going to be a lot of give and take in this series, and it's going to be really difficult to build good rosters for the first 2 seasons. Johnny Mechie, Brian Goetz are going to be in our edge class 3-star guys both ways. Goetz is a JUCO player, so we may be able to get him a little easier than the other guys, but we'll have to see. He has 80 speeds coming off the edge, so that should be good and should play very well down here in the Pac-12 next year. And then John Brink is another guy I want to look at, the Mike linebacker. He's a signal caller. We didn't scout him because he's a 3-star guy, and we know he's going to be better than any of our guys on the board. We were just kind of seeing who would fit where. Steve Pitts, we did scout. Doesn't look to be that great, but what's to be expected outside of a 2-star? So we may try to go all in on Brink here and kind of sacrifice a star position there and maybe reduce somewhere else. And as we advance to week 0, we can already see the difficulties of being a 2-star program. Kansas and Arkansas look to take Brian Flores from us, which the difference isn't that big. So hopefully if we can give him a little bit more hours than they do and focus on him a little more, we'll be able to see him. But Rob Tobias will probably have to get taken off the board, as Syracuse, USC, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, all big-time programs are all looking to bring him into their roster. So we're going to say goodbye to Rob Tobias. We're not going to be able to get him, so we'll have to backfill him with somebody else. But players like Marco Gibbs, the cornerback, looks to be wanting to come to our university, the only team that has interest in him right now. So we're going to give him some hours, and we're going to try to work our way through this and see who wants to stay. And we're going to cut some guys that we have no ability of getting this season. And even getting 2 stars isn't the easiest thing, as Darrell Bryant, we have a 3-star pipeline tier, isn't even going to be looking to come to university. UTSA, the rival in state, is looking to take him, and just having their scholarship offer, he did 2 or 3 times the influence. So we're going to unfortunately have to remove him from the board. I just don't feel like we have enough hours to really convince him to come to the Bobcats. But after all the rework in the recruiting board, it looks quite different up here at the top. Marco Gibbs is our current best player on our board. He's a top 500 player, a cornerback that hopefully will change our defense. And as we saw with the roster review, we don't really have a ton of guys on the roster that are going to be able to do it for us, especially in the secondary. So he could be a big get, and he's probably going to be one of those guys that we want to spend those stars on to be able to get. Johnny Mechie is still on the board here, but with Sam Houston State coming up fast and not having a ton of hours to go around, he may fall to the wayside as well. But a lot of these other guys look to be on the up and up. I'm really excited. Nick Fumagili is going to hopefully be our quarterback of the future, the 6'5" pocket passer out of Cedar Hills, Texas. We are in his number 1 spot. He's a 3-star, top 1,000 player, top 60 quarterback in the country. Hopefully he looks to come to Texas State and stay local, and we'll hopefully be able to keep him happy down the road. Currently have an A+ in his play style, so as long as we keep passing the ball a ton, we should be able to get them. And we'll see the rest of these guys throughout this season. I don't want to spend too much time on recruiting because it's so volatile this year. It can change at the drop of a hat. So here's all the guys that we see so far. Hopefully we're going to be able to sneak a lot of 3-stars in there, but with the house rules, it may not be the easiest thing to do this year. And the biggest thing this year is we're going to see this every single week. There's just going to be a ton of guys that want to transfer. A ton of these top guys are at the risk of transfer next season. Players like Don Jr., Landry. Only benefit is that some of these guys are seniors, so we don't really have to worry about that. But a lot of our younger guys are going to be issues, and we're hopefully going to be able to get them in the lineup. You know, playing time shouldn't be an issue. Maybe it is for some of those lower running backs, which is going to be unfortunate because we're going to have to replace like 5 or 6 running backs this next season. Hopefully we can make a good step into next season as we go into the Pac-12. But that will bring us to the end of the episode. Episode 1, I just want to get everything out of the way as we prepare for the season. The next episode, we will be taking on Eastern Michigan in our very first game as a head coach. We have the leg up on paper. We're at home against the Eagles, so we should be able to get the win and start off this tenure here as a Texas State head coach on the right foot. We'll take some look at recruiting as well as we go throughout the year, but I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next episode. Be sure you subscribe so you never miss a video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.